introduce you to my family. अब की बार ट्रम्प सरकार।
And Prime Minister Modi's week-long U.S. trip began on a high point, to say the least. A crowd at the NRG Stadium that erupted at every sentence of the Prime Minister's speech. The focus now shifts to New York, where it's going to be a busy week ahead, filled with bilateral and multilateral engagements. Prime Minister Modi will be attending over 40 meetings, which will culminate in the UN General Assembly address on Friday. The highlight of Modi's packed schedule will be the India-US bilateral interaction. The Prime Minister will be meeting US President Donald Trump in New York tomorrow. It will be their fourth meeting in as many months. That meeting is expected to set the tone further of the India-US bilateral relationship. On the table are discussions on bilateral, regional and global issues, including efforts to address trade tensions. But the Prime Minister will start the week by addressing the UN Climate Action Summit, where he is expected to outline India's environmental and climate action policy. He will showcase what India has done to address climate change issues and spell out India's expectations and aspirations from the international community. The Prime Minister will be discussing domestic policies on water and transport. Remember, India is even pushing for greater engagement this year, where it will take part in multiple platforms with a large group of countries. The two scheduled plurilaterals, as they are called, are the Indo-Pacific Island Leaders Meeting and India-CARICOM meeting, which includes island nations such as Antigua and Barbuda, Trinidad and Tobago. At the United Nations, the Prime Minister will be showcasing his government's achievements over the last 5 years. He will outline India's future as a leader in shaping global politics and socio-economic agenda. Multilateralism will be the overarching theme of the Prime Minister's speech at the United Nations. His speech is expected to also generate attention towards the tensions between India and Pakistan over the scrapping of special status of Jammu and Kashmir. India has reiterated its stance that Jammu and Kashmir is its internal matter. And joining us on the broadcast is a very special guest right here, R. Jagannathan, who is the editorial director of Swarajya magazine. Thanks very much, sir, for speaking with us here on Beyond World is One. I want to begin by asking you for your initial assessment of the reception that the Prime Minister has received so far, and the next few hours and days ahead, where he will be engaging in several meetings with world leaders, a host of issues on the table.
Yeah, first thing, I think the visitors got off to a bang, for the simple reason it started with the Howdy Modi event at Houston, where I think Modi demonstrated not only his ability to tug at the heartstrings of Indians in the US, but demonstrated to a whole lot of US politicians, from President Donald Trump to several senators to US congresspersons, men and women, from the US power structure, bipartisan attendance, that look, India is finally arriving as a factor.
All right, we'll just try and reconnect that line with R. Jagannathan. But as he was saying, the meeting has already, the visit of the Indian Prime Minister has already started on a high point, to say the least, given what we witnessed over the last few hours in Houston, with the Prime Minister and US President Donald Trump addressing about 50,000 Indian Americans. And that's just a snippet of the reception that the Prime Minister has received. And the next few days, we'll see a jam-packed schedule for the Indian Prime Minister. There are a string of meetings lined up. Over the next few hours, though, the prime focus will be the meeting on climate change, apart from the 40 meetings that will ultimately culminate in the UN General Assembly address on Friday. Now, climate change is an issue and climate action is an issue that India has been absolutely clear about, that the time to act is now, and it has also taken several initiatives over the last few months. At the Climate Action Summit at the United Nations, the Prime Minister will be showcasing what India has done to address climate change issues and also spell out India's expectations and aspirations from the international community. He will also be discussing the domestic policy on water and transport. And WION World is One's principal diplomatic correspondent Siddhant Sibal sent us this report on the Prime Minister's agenda. Take a look.
A strong resolve to make America great. Trump Sarkar.
Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi is in New York in the second leg of his US visit, week-long US visit, and diplomacy will be focused in his New York visit. High decibel diplomacy. The Indian Prime Minister will be addressing 9 events here, and on Monday he will be attending 3 summits: the Climate Change Summit, the Universal Healthcare Summit, and the Anti-Terror Cooperation Summit, in which he will be talking about cross-border terrorism. But the big focus will be on the United Nations General Assembly speech of Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Friday, the second time he addresses the UNGA since 2014, and the speech is expected to talk about a lot of global issues and challenges and maybe some proposals, because last time the Indian Prime Minister addressed the UNGA was way back in 2014, and he gave the idea of Yoga Day, which has now become an annual celebration of India's personality globally. He will be meeting 45 world leaders, including US President Donald Trump, the Iranian president, and other world leaders, including from the neighborhood and from the Caribbean and the Pacific. With the Caribbean, there will be the first India-Caribbean Summit, and the Pacific, there will be the third India-Pacific Island Summit that will increase India's outreach and also focus on the Indo-Pacific concept.